Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality. Well, good evening, and welcome to Real Talk with the Cummings. My name is Mark Angelo.
And I'm Lena Ariel. Thank you for joining us tonight. We know you have other things to do, but catching up with us is a good thing sometimes.
Anyway, so the world keeps turning round and round. I'm expecting it from one day to
It feels very dystopian. Is this Dune?
Yeah.
Is this from the movie Dune, or are we living it?
We're living it.
There are those worms.
Soon there'll be one coming right behind you. Yeah, something.
I would never understand how far down the rabbit hole we are now. You know.
Well, I had an inkling back in 2008 that things, but I think I was ahead of my time. I was like, a little too. I didn't realize it was going to be 20 years later or something like that.
Yeah, you're a little late to a little early to the party. The party was supposed to happen in the 2020s.
Yeah.
You started it before 2010.
Yeah, 2007, 2008.
That's
yeah, I had an early premonition, but I didn't realize that it was going to take a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, you were on there doing these dystopian videos. Everybody, you've got to listen to me. I'm telling you the truth. They're enslaving you, and you don't even know it. Followed by a video about Afghanistan. No, what was it? Afghanistan back in the day. We've had videos of yours that have been taken down.
Yeah.
Ones that were about the awakening and stuff.
But the new world order is here. Don't say I didn't warn you. I even wrote a whole album pretty much called Enslaved, and a lot of the songs in there were what's happening now, game's over. I mean, you name it, but what did I know? But yeah, it's crazy, and it only gets crazier. I mean, it's it's not the first rodeo. Okay, what people don't understand, this is not a first time thing. This happens cyclically when our handlers decide to come back because we're getting too smart. Let us come down and confuse their language. They flooded us. There's been so many different floods. There's been so many different things.
Apparently, we are the 7th version of humanity.
7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we keep getting too smart for our bridges, keep figuring things out, and then they have to come and wipe us out and remove our memory.
I don't think if we've gotten too smart for our bridges this time. I think that was one
before us.
Couple times back, but
now we're too dumb.
We're too dumb for our bridges, so they're like, "Oh no.
We dumbed them down too much. We need to maybe quarter inch up a little bit.
The supermarket and things just fall apart because everybody wants to eat a ding dong.
Yeah. They don't even look like us anymore.
Yeah, they don't look like us anymore.
Yeah, because the handlers have abs and are really strong, and they look at us now and they're kind of shaking their heads.
They're like, "Oh no, we need to start over."
Yeah, unfortunately. But I don't know. It's just like the Twilight Zone. But anyway, today's show is called Democracy is Done, the Rise of Corporate Monarchy. You know, many of us try to warn many of you about Project 2025, and people were just like, no, not happening.
It wasn't Project 2027. It wasn't Project 2026.
2025.
Yeah.
That kind of should have been a clue.
Yeah.
But whose long game seems to be implemented as sort of far-right extremist, quasi-authoritarian political regime within the current American political structure, where conservative ideologies are shoved down everyone's throat, whether they like it or not.
I was watching something at the gym again. Last week it was something else, but this week I saw that Riley Gaines, you know, the one that was a swimmer and had all that big fuss against Leah Thomas and everything.
Yes.
And didn't she have like some incident happen in some school that she was going to speak at,
and they locked her up in a
where
closet
she was locked up and she wasn't able to get out?
Yes.
I don't know, whatever. She's got her own show.
Oh, of course.
It's called Transfixed or something. And I could just see it through the captions. She was saying, and everyone who transitions, they just live these lives of sadness and misery, and they never are happy, and they never get what they actually wanted out of life. And it's like, she speaks with so much authority.
Like she knows it.
As if she knows anything. And all she did was be at the right place at the right time to talk about a swimmer that happened to compete with her.
What people don't understand, that this whole paradigm has been created like in a laboratory. They knew exactly what they were doing. You know, let's get this big hoopla about trans athletes and about children being transitioned in school, which none of that happened. There's maybe a handful of trans athletes, you know, a handful, and they're making such a big deal. And women think that this is being done to help them, but they're just being used as a tool because these conservatives don't give a rat's you know what about you. They don't. It's crazy stuff.
The current immigrant roundup is part of this agenda, as was the ending of Roe v. Wade, banning trans people, dismantling gay marriage coming soon, insisting climate change isn't real, so we have the authority to knock down all the forests now, insisting and waging nonstop culture war issues on mostly non-existent problems. See CRT and cat litter in classrooms, which was a lie.
Like they're eating the cats and dogs and all that. I mean, it's like, and these individuals are so vulnerable and so low IQ that the
the kids are literally identifying as a cat, and the teacher has,
So most of Trump's more controversial executive orders not involving Elon and Doge are part of the Project 2025 agenda. Then we got the Christian Reconstructionists. See also Dominionists and the New Apostolic Reformation, whose long game is rejiggering the Constitution to make America less of a democratic republic and more of a Christian theocracy.
So this here is the easiest to understand breakdown of the Elon Musk / JD Vance / Peter Thiel / Curtis Yarvin tech destructors agenda, currently ambushing the USA. Shane Almgren has authored a couple of books on adjacent topics, The Trumpland Diaries and Conspiracy Christianity, and has been investigating the above-mentioned people for a while. Yet, it's a bit long, but not really. He's made it chatty, and this is an excerpt from a longer piece.
Finally, we've got a third group, the one that's responsible for all the chaos Elon and Doge are causing. Their agenda is actually far more extreme than either Project 2025 or the Christian Reconstructionists dominionist. And the scary thing is, they're already implementing their freakish plan at warp speed, while most of the country is busy bickering about all the quaint Project 2025 garbage and Trump's usual unending fire hose of idiotic nonsense.
There's a few key players we're going to have to cover some backstory for, namely Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, a guy you might have heard of by the name of Peter Thiel, and a guy you almost certainly haven't, Curtis Yarving. These guys are all connected in a mildly horrifying way, and we're about to unpack it all.
Once upon a time in the 90s, Elon Musk founded a small company called X.com. No, not Twitter, a different X.com. Dude just has an inexplicable fixation with the letter X. Could it be that he is part of Planet X, which is what Nibiru, which is the Anunnaki? I think so. X was a fledgling digital banking service that allowed people to transact with vendors and each other without cash, checks, or plastic.
At the same time Musk was building out X, another young entrepreneur, a German immigrant named Peter Thiel, was building a very similar money transfer service right across town called Confinity. Rather than compete with each other, Musk and Thiel decided to merge their two companies in 1999, with Musk named CEO of the new company. Shortly after the new merger, Musk was fired as CEO by the board, who replaced him with Thiel. After Thiel took over, the company's name was changed to PayPal. You may have heard of it.
Yes, PayPal attracted some of the most promising young talents in Silicon Valley, and its early members wielded so much power and influence in the tech space that they became collectively known as the PayPal Mafia.
Besides Musk and Thiel, the PayPal Mafia included Stephen Chen, Chad Hurley, and Jawed Karim, co-founders of YouTube. Russell Simmons and Jeremy Stoppelman, co-founders of Yelp. Max Levchin, current CEO of Affirm. Roelof Botha, partner at Sequoia Capital.
David Sachs, founder of Jenny.com and Yammer, Trump's new AI crypto Cesar, or whatever Czar. Reid Hoffman, founder of Lincoln, early investor in Facebook, currently on the board of Microsoft. Jack Selby, co-author of Clarion Capital with Peter Thiel.
Yashan Wong, CEO of Reddit, founder of Terraformation Incorporated. Pramal Shah, founder of Kiva, on the board at change.org. Plus a dozen others. The PayPal Mafia churned out a who's who in the big tech space, with nearly everyone involved becoming billionaires many times over. Today, it is one of the wealthiest and most influential collection of individuals, not just in America, but in the entire world.
In 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion. Although no longer officially with PayPal after being ousted, Elon still held around 10% of the company's shares and netted roughly $116 million in the sale.
So that's the Peter Thiel Elon Musk connection. They co-founded PayPal together. Now let's see how J.D. Vance is tied into this crew. In 2011, Peter Thiel gave a talk at Yale where J.D. Vance was attending law school, changing the course of Vance's life, as J.D. recounts it. Vance called Thiel possibly the smartest person, quote unquote, he ever met, and decided to pivot from a career in law to one in venture capital. In 2015, J.D. joined the Thiel-founded Mithril Capital with Thiel as his personal mentor.
In 2016, Vance published Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of a family and culture in crisis, thrusting his name in the national spotlight for the first time. It was at this time that Vance, unencumbered by any political aspirations or pretense, and therefore free to speak his actual mind, sent Yale roommate an email regarding American leading presidential candidate, Donald Trump. that read, I go back and forth between thinking Trump is a cynical asshole like Nixon, who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, or that he's America's Hitler. How's that for a discouraging?
Vance left Thiel's firm in 2017 and joined a DC-based investment firm. Then he launched his own VC firm, Narva Capital, in 2019 with financial backing from Thiel. Billionaire VC capitalist Mark Andreessen and former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt.
For reasons we'll get into in just a minute, around the same time the pandemic was starting to wind down, Peter Thiel decided it was finally time for him to own U.S. senator and start pulling some long-awaited political strings. He figured that since he funded Vance's VC firm and essentially owned Vance already, he's just migrate the ownership from the private sector to the public.
Because J.D. Vance has been open critic of Donald Trump during Trump's entire first term, Thiel invited Vance down to Mar-a-Lago to smooth things over in hopes of getting an endorsement from Orange Jesus. Thiel informed Vance of his plans to make him a senator. So Vance scrapped all of his previous principles, decided power was more gooder than having any convictions, kissed Trump's ring, and earned the endorsement.
Thiel, for his part, poured an ungodly amount of his own money into Vance's Senate campaign, about $15 million, marking the largest donation to a single Senate candidate in American history. In addition to his personal $15 million, Thiel also recruited 10 major donors for Vance, including a couple of old tech buddies from PayPal Mafia who chipped in $1 million each.
So if you have ever found yourself wondering how the author of Hillbilly Elegy, a lawyer turned venture capitalist with no political experience or aspirations and a vocal critic of Donald Trump, came out of nowhere and managed to snag Trump's endorsement and win a Senate seat in his first foray into politics, there's your explanation. Peter Thiel orchestrated, arranged, and funded the entire thing. A tech billionaire bought himself a senator.
Now the next question is why? This is where it starts to get scary. It's time to meet the final character in our story, Curtis Yarvin. Yarvin is a software developer and tech entrepreneur who started the Unqualified Reservation blog in 2003 under the pen name Mencius Moberg. He's perhaps best known for founding the anti-egalitarian, anti-democratic philosophical movement known as the Dark Enlightenment or the Neo-Reactionary Movement, NRX. Like most people, Yarvin sees a ton of problems in society, but unlike most people, the problems he sees and his solutions to the problems aren't dystopian, fringe at best, and democracy-ending suicide at worst.
In a nutshell, Yarvin's Dark Enlightenment political worldview is that the real power in the U.S. resides in an informal collaboration of universities and the mainstream media that he calls the cathedral, which collude to sway public opinion. He admires the former Chinese communist leader Deng Xiaoping for his pragmatic and market-oriented authoritarianism, believes America's commitment to equality and justice erodes social order, quote unquote, and advocates for an American monarch to dissolve elite academic institutions and media outlets ASAP. And just to let you know, Rachel Maddow they've been trying to get her and another woman on MSNBC to be fired.
Yeah, to resign. Basically. Yeah, pretty much. This is how these bullies work. And it's like the trail is very deep. And this has been going on for a while. It's like they're playing a game of chess. So a regular speaker at various libertarian and techno-fascist conferences, Yarvin's position is that democratic governments are inefficient and wasteful and should be replaced with sovereign corporations whose shareholders, quote unquote, elect an executive with total power over the country's corporation. As Yarvin explains it, unencumbered by liberal democratic procedures, the executive could rule like a CEO monarch. But see, it's America is a corporation already, which most people don't understand. Think it's a country. It's not. It's an empire. It's a corporation. It's this. This is going to unfold in ways that people have no clue about.
And just in case it still isn't abundantly clear what Curtis Yarvin thinks is the solution to what ails America, here it is in his most straightforward phrasing. Quote, if Americans want to change their government, they're going to have to get over their dictator phobia, unquote. Yes, Curtis Yarvin is an unapologetic proponent of dictatorships, since there's no real difference, quote unquote, between a dictator and a CEO, and corporations under the rule of a CEO appear to work just fine. As he puts it, quote, nations like the United States are outdated software systems, unquote, that need to be, quote, broken up into smaller entities called patchworks, which would be controlled by tech corporations, unquote.
You know, it's like these individuals, all these CEOs and practically billionaires that run the world, you know, from Bill Gates to you name it. They're all it's almost like they're robotic. They're not even human. You know, they have no, like, I read something today about Elon Musk saying that empathy is one of humans' weakest characteristic, that being empathic towards others is a weakness.
Right.
He doesn't know how to feel. He doesn't know. I mean, he's just like a computer, and so are the majority of these people. That, you know, they're narcissists in nature, and all they care about is themselves, their money, and power. As he puts it in an interview with the New York Times on January 18, democracy is done. Now I know what you're thinking, Shane. This Yarvin dude is clearly off his rocker. Nobody in their right mind would take this corporate monarchy nonsense seriously. Why are you wasting everyone's time explaining in detail the techno-fascist manifesto rambling of some internet pop philosopher who calls himself Mencius Moldberg? Dude sounds like he's living in some Matrix meets a Hunger Games dystopian fantasy world. Surely nobody takes this dude crazy's idea seriously.
And that's where you would be wrong, perilously wrong. Two of Curtis Yarvin's biggest disciples and advocates for his technocratic ideas are Peter Thiel and Vice President J.D. Vance, the MAGA heir apparent. The three of them have been friends since at least 2009, after Yarvin's writings and ideologies became super popular within the PayPal Mafia circle. If you got an hour and a half to waste, Vance was on Jack Murphy live podcast, name-dropping Yarvin and spewing a few of his more sinister ideas.
See, people forget that billionaires have political ideologies just like everyone else. And remember, most people's political ideologies are generally tailored to improve the life of the person holding them. Democracy sounds great if you're a peasant living under a king with no say in how things are run. But in what way would democracy improve your life if you're a multi-billionaire who can buy politicians? Once you're up that high on the food chain, democracy is no longer a step up. It's a step down.
So all these filthy rich, filthy powerful tech bros have jumped on board with turning America into a corporation run by a CEO with authoritarian power. According to them, the masses don't need to be voting. The masses are idiots. Or as Yarvin puts it, the masses are asses. The PayPal Mafia has no interest in becoming beholden to the whims of a bunch of blue-collar workers from Appalachia. If they're going to be free to live their best lives, they are going to need to unshackle themselves from the masses who can't even figure life out enough to afford groceries.
And this is what they think of us. We're like useless eaters. You know, one of the things that I noticed about Trump, he doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut. He gave it away when he was before the election. Don't worry, if you vote for me this one time, you'll never have to vote again. And people thought, oh, you know, he's just rambling and that. But they told him the plan, and he kept throwing little bombs, little, little innuendos, letting people know what is going to happen. There won't be another election. There won't, there's just like the writing has been on the wall for a very long time. Put bluntly, those who can write a check for a few billion and not even notice it's gone, are not interested in the opinions of those whining about the cost of 12 eggs. As Peter Thiel once wrote in Cato essay, I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. Now, supposing they were actually going to attempt to pull this techno coup off, what would that look like in practice?
Well, thankfully, Yarvin has had the plan mapped out for years with the little strategies given the acronym RAGE, R-A-G-E, retire all government employees.
What's happening now?
It would look exactly like what we're all looking at. Elon's haphazard, chaotic coup of federal agencies is anything but. This has been the plan all along by these Yarvin acolytes. Gut the federal workforce, either by mass firings or incentivizing them to resign, crippling the entire government in the process, at which point big tech corporate solutions that just so happen to be already be on hand can step in and take over the reins of running our government.
Since you can never get away with doing this as a blatant hostile takeover, you just frame the entire exercise as an audit to weed out fraud and corruption, quote unquote. Then watch the gatekeepers roll out the red carpet and cheer the whole takeover on. That's what they've been doing,
It sounds like tinfoil hat conspiracy, but look at what's happening right in front of your eyes every day.
Yeah.
Something different.
Yeah.
Some other government agency is being shuttered. Now they're coming after Social Security.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Isn't a little weird that JD Vance came out of nowhere to win a Senate seat?
Mm-hmm.
And weirder still that Peter Thiel managed to convince Trump to make this virtual nobody his running mate, even though Vance was the most unpopular VP pick in polling history. I remember when he first got announced and how nobody liked him.
And nobody likes him now either, except for the people that voted Trump in. Wasn't it a bit strange that Donald Trump told a bunch of evangelicals at a rally, vote for me this one time and I'll make sure you never have to vote again? What the hell did that mean?
Isn't it slightly too coincidental that Peter Thiel's original business partner, Elon Musk, is currently running roughshod through the American government, doing exactly what Curtis Yarvin said needs to happen?
No coincidence there. This isn't conspiracy land. This isn't conspiracy land at this point. These dudes told everyone what they wanted to do, and then they started doing it while we all watched dumbfounded. The left is going, surely they can't be doing what it sure as hell looks like they're doing, taking over the government, and the right is just cheering them on because it makes the libertard snowflakes cry.
So there's your explanation. Elon Musk, JD Vance, and Peter Thiel are executing a long-planned agenda to take over the government. Donald Trump is just a dementia-addled old man along for the ride, ranting about windmills and magnets and taking over canals and content to sign large pieces of paper for the TV cameras all day. Hopefully, the chaos makes a little more sense now.
Yeah, and there you have it. I mean, it couldn't be more black and white than that. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. You couldn't write it in a script.
Well, they've written it up on a script and they're performing it right now, right before our eyes.
Totally right before our eyes. So, I mean, it's just crazy. But I never really thought of the fact that JD Vance was a nobody, and all these corporations like PayPal and all the Affirm and all these different agencies that are literally big money, credit card type of things, lending, loans, and all that stuff, and people are just falling for that trap. Now, I don't know how many of you actually ever heard of Jamie Shupe. Um, I interviewed them back during my crazy detransition state. Um, and, you know, they they obviously were struggling with a lot of things. And I believe that those of us that have entered the detrans arena, there's been an inner turmoil and struggle, whether it's religiosity, whether it's, not being accepted, just all sorts of things that when you transition, you never really work through those things. And then through the years that you're dealing with things and things pop back up, and you have to work through it. Now, what's taking place in this country, it's really throwing a monkey wrench on those of us in the LGBTQ. And it's not just trans individuals that are going to be attacked by this administration. Already the gay community is feeling it, and they're feeling the fact that their marriage will be probably void and nullified, right? It's a really sad day when a group of individuals that claim to be Christians, and I put in quotation because to be a Christian, you need to love your neighbor. Everything that Christ, their poster child, tries to tell them to do, they're doing the complete opposite, But anyway, there are many who are scared and worried about the steps the new administration is taking towards immigrants, minorities, women, trans, and anyone who doesn't fit in their perfect white box. One of the casualties of Trump's anti-LGBT rhetoric is Elisa Rae Shupe, formerly known as Jamie Shupe. I interviewed Shupe during one of my detransition phases during a time of my own self-hatred caused by the guilt and indoctrination of a horrible belief system I sadly was following. There were times I wanted to end it all myself, but I'm glad I held on to my heart and returned to who I truly am. There are many like our fellow human Shupe who are tormented by Christians and their God.
It's time to stand for truth and freedom and to stop perpetuating the false narrative and divisive beliefs that destroys life. Elisa Rae Shupe is the first person to obtain a legally recognized non-binary gender status in the United States and a veteran, was found dead from an apparent suicide by hanging atop the Syracuse Veterans Affairs Medical Center parking garage on Monday, January 27, 2025.
And I want to say, I hadn't heard anything. Somebody had actually gone into that interview that I did with them and wrote the words RIP. And I'm like, RIP, what? Because there hasn't been a lot about this. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find anything once that person said, and they said, yes, they committed suicide. And I still couldn't find anything. But the other day, somebody sent this article to me, and I was able to, finally read what happened because I didn't know what went down. She was found fully wrapped in the pink, blue, and white transgender pride flag, and I guess they retransitioned. Elisa had emailed loved ones, and a couple of news stations had let her immediately prior to taking her life, hoping at least one source would publish it, but none even bothered writing a story about it. Here is the letter from Elisa Rae Shupe to the Trump administration. F you, America. I don't want your hatred.
I don't want the military decorations and medals you awarded me. I don't want your pension money for my distinguished military service and service-connected disabilities. I don't want your health care to treat the mental illness you caused. I don't want more psychiatric ward commitments to keep me alive in a nation that I despise. I don't want to be buried in any of your state or national cemeteries for veterans and military retirees.
I don't want to be buried anywhere on American soil. I don't want any military honors or ceremonies to mark my death. I don't want my ashes to be stored in an American soil, on American soil. I want my ashes and remains to be spread or buried in international waters. I don't want your flag anywhere near my body, remains, or ashes.
I don't want any members of my family other than my spouse to be on the vessel that disposes of my ashes or remains. My death is not a surrender. My death as a member of the third gender and transgender population does not mean you won. It solely marks the end of our association. You are not the land of the free. You are not a country getting made great again.
Too much demonstrated hatred throughout your existence extinguishes any claim to previous greatness. You are a cesspool of zealots that worships a God that does not and has not ever existed. Enjoy your new royal family and third world dictator.
I refuse to participate any further. Have that NZ piece of shit, Elon Musk, and his Doge henchmen deduct the savings from my $93,000 of federal pensions from your bankrupt coffers.
The white man decimated and massacred the indigenous population of the third gender on the lands now called America. It was only fitting that a white person restored it.
You cannot erase non-binary and transgender people because you give birth to more of us each day.
That is so true. That is so true. I mean, wow. It hits me because not only did I interviewed them, I also communicated back and forth with them. I spoke to them on the phone several times. And I could only imagine, like Shupe, there are many that are feeling the same way with this administration and their total hatred of us. I mean, it's just like there's something so deep, and it goes. I think it goes beyond this 3D reality that we're living in. This is something so deep that I can't even find the words to properly explain to you how deep into the rabbit hole this whole thing goes. As she was saying, the third gender, the indigenous individuals that many identified with her as third gender, they're two-spirited and everything else. There's something very spiritual about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being played out right now as an attack towards us for a reason. I may not even have the right words to articulate how this is not just the material realm that we're living. This is a vendetta of two different forces coming together into war of different energetic fields, if I'm even able to explain it. And I don't even know if I could do it any justice. I know what it feels like because in a spiritual sense, things are felt. There's no words that could ever be placed to explain it. But this is pretty deep. And
well, you gotta really look into how the characterization has been throughout the many, many years of discrimination of the indigenous, of the African American community, of the Latino community.
Mm-hmm.
This has always been an issue of just these people are from other worlds
mm-hmm.
or something, and it's they operate on a frequency of existence that is so much more of a they need us to survive.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need them because we don't need to be fueled. We're eternal beings already.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have sustenance, and they need to create the negativity. They need to create the hatred. They need to create the war. They need to create the division. They need to create the animosity and the discrimination and all the fighting and all the death and all their destruction. They need that because they in and of themselves, and we're not just talking about the white man conquering the indigenous people of whatever part of the world
all
or
over the
anything,
world.
but we're talking about what's behind the power that came, that was influenced and shown through the white man.
Mm-hmm.
That power came against the power that was already here.
Right.
And those powers do not really, they're not consistent with each other.
They're not compatible. One
Right.
is a false god, a god that is a facsimile and has created a facsimile world and has dominated this world through his lies and bullying methods. And because the light beings that encase this beautiful, wonderful frequency, not that they've surrendered, as Shupe says, but it's like they're just not confrontative. They're not animosity. They're not warring as the warring God of the Bible and the Christian faith and all the Catholic and all that energy that comes from that. It's just it doesn't, they can't coexist. So it's like they've backed down. They've like allowed the things that are taking place in the world. And this darkness knows the power of the two-spirit, of the LGBTQ community. As much as they hate us, they fear us. They fear what we're capable of. Because if those of us that are part of the right creation would only realize the abilities that we have, their quest, the dark side, would end immediately.
Well, see, the thing that we represent is a threat to their existence, is a threat to their patriarchal system of control and domination and fear that they want to instill around the world. I mean, in Europe, it's Putin, with an iron fist. In China, it's Xi Jinping, with an iron fist. It's Israel with an iron fist in their part of the world. It's the Saudi Arabian kings with an iron fist. It's like all of these systems are set up to destroy others, but not just for the sake of destruction, but because they need that in order to continue to exist. I mean, this world is built on death and destruction. I mean, even a volcano, causes terrible destruction when it comes to the surface, and then it creates itself, but it has to destroy other things in the process. I don't know. I think we're kind of at that place where we're understanding things on a different light, in a different way, that makes us really question every single thing that happens, even to the nth degree, and look beyond the surfacey Project 2025, the EOs, the executive orders that are being rushed out of the White House on a daily basis, and amendments to them. These are all just smoke screens. As Musk and Doge, his little band of tech bros and slaves and little serfs go out there and start causing havoc and messing with systems that have been in place.
And it's deeper. It's so deep that it's beyond the 3D reality. This is very spiritual, and not in a religious way. Spiritual in a sense of like removing the veils of people's eyes to see who they are and what they've been serving. What's up is down and what's down is up. What you believe is good is actually evil. Just like in the story of Adam and Eve, where the snake was apparently evil, it's the snake that was good and trying to tell Adam and Eve of the deception that their God, one of the Elohims, which you all know as Yahweh, was tricking them and making them believe that they were these feeble little innocent children and they had to obey their papa or they would get damned and forever sent to the abyss. And it's a storyline that's repeated itself over and over again. The thing is, now eyes are being opened, and they know that because the frequency of the planet is changing. And they're very fearful of us opening our eyes. So every time we get near that point, they try to destroy us and they reset us. But there's something now that's very different, and they know it, and they're very much afraid. So they have to go with this authoritarian ways, full force. And that's what you're seeing played out right before your very eyes. Now, Trump is just a puppet, okay? Trump is just a puppet. He's not intelligent enough to pull any of this by himself. We better hope that all the Social Security numbers and tax information that Musk just uploaded from Social Security and the IRS from every single American citizen account doesn't end up in Putin's files.
Whoever has that info can potentially wipe out every dime we have and can potentially fund a world takeover. There is something rancid in America, a slow, creeping rot that smells like cold McDonald's fries, aerosol hairspray, and the unmistakable musk of a country too sedated to recognize its own hostage situation.
And the sad thing is that many of them are cheering all this on. They're like, oh, yes, they're draining the swamp. He's getting rid of all the corruption. It's like, you massive idiots. Do you not see what's happening right before your very eyes? For years, the idea that Donald Trump was compromised by Russia was dismissed as paranoid fantasy. Just another wild eye conspiracy theory, another overblown headline in the endless saga of American political dysfunction.
But now, two former Soviet intelligence officers, Alner Musayev and Yuri Shvets, are saying it outright. Trump was recruited by the KGB in 1987, groomed as an asset, and remains under Russian control to this day. And the worst part, he's already back in the White House.
That's right, America. You did it. You walked face first into the banana peel of history, slipped and fell straight into the arms of Vladimir Putin. Trump was kicked out in 2020, spent 4 years plotting his comeback, and now he's returned like a bloated orange cockroach that just won't die.
Kremlin's favorite stooge is running the country again. And this time, he knows exactly how to stay in power. If you think this is just another round of the Trump show, you're not paying attention. This isn't politics anymore. This is treason. This is foreign subversion. This is a GD coup in slow motion.
Let's break it down. Nice and simple. Alner Musayev isn't some Twitter conspiracy theorist with a tinfoil hat and a podcast. He's the former head of the Kazakhstan's National Security Committee, which means he knows exactly how Russian intelligence works because he was part of the system.
And what he's saying should make every American's blood run cold. According to Musayev, Trump was identified, recruited, and compromised by the KGB in 1987 during his first trip to Moscow. They saw him for what he was, a narcissistic, greedy, attention-starved buffoon who could be easily manipulated. The KGB flattered him, promised him business deals, and planted the seeds of political ambition in his empty little head. And from that moment on, he was their man.
But Musayev isn't alone. Former KGB Major Yuri Shvets said that exact same thing in 2021. Trump was cultivated by Soviet intelligence because he was an easy mark, too stupid to realize he was being played, too egotistical to care. They saw him as a useful idiot, a man who could one day be nudged into power, a walking, talking Trojan horse for Russians' interest.
And now the plan has worked. Trump spent 4 years in office, weakening America from within, got booted out, and now he's back for round two. If you had told the American public in 1962 that a Soviet-backed asset would one day sit in the White House with a wife who speaks Russian, they would have burned Washington to the ground before letting it happen. But today, nobody seems to care.
The media treats this like just another wacky subplot in the never-ending Trump reality show. Congress is too busy fighting over meaningless cultural war nonsense to do anything about it. And the American public, Exhausted, numb, checked out. Years of scandals, Russian collusions, of Ukraine blackmail, classified documents, tax fraud, sexual assault, and an attempted coup have fried the country's brain like an overcooked steak at Mar-a-Lago.
Trump has done the impossible. He has committed so many crimes, so openly, so brazenly. He even said, if I shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, nobody would care. That none of them matter anymore. And now with Musayev's revelation that Trump is an active foreign asset, we have finally reached the point where the biggest political scandal in American history is met with a collective shrug.
This is how democracy dies. Not with a bang, but with a goddamn eye roll. This is the part where the skeptics start clutching their pearls. Oh, come on. They say, if Trump's were really a Russian asset, wouldn't there be more proof? To which I say, are you blind or just willfully stupid?
Let's go through the evidence, shall we? Trump spent his entire first term doing exactly what Russia wanted. He attacked NATO, calling it obsolete and threatening to pull the US out. He tried to blackmail Ukraine into manufacturing dirt on Joe Biden because weakening Ukraine helps one man and one man only, former head of the KGB himself, Vladimir Putin. He pulled US troops out of Syria, handing power over to Russian forces. He picked fights with Canada and Europe while cozying up to dictators.
And what's happening now? Look at what happened the other day when they met, and I mean, that was a circus. And what's going on with Canada?
Yeah.
You know, even now in his second term, he is more openly pro-Putin than ever. He has made it clear that he will not protect NATO allies from Russian aggression. He's actively dismantling America's alliances just as Russia planned. It's right before your very eyes.
And while America screams at each other over whether Target should sell rainbow t-shirts, Trump is quietly selling the country to the Kremlin. At some point, you have to stop calling it a coincidence and start calling it what it is: treason. The United States is running out of time. If Trump serves out his term, this term, without being removed, America, as a functioning democracy, is finished.
The media needs to wake up. Enough with this Trump fatigue excuse. This is not just another scandal. This is the single greatest infiltration of American power in history. Journalists need to dig into Mossav's claims, demand declassification of intelligence files, and treat this like the national emergency that it is.
Congress needs to subpoena Musayev immediately. His testimony must be public, and every document he has should be reviewed. If there is proof that Trump has been compromised since the 80s, the American people need to know.
The Justice Department needs to stop pretending that Trump is just another politician. If there is evidence that the sitting president of the United States is working in Russia's interest, he must be removed from office and prosecuted for espionage. And the American people, you have one last chance.
This is not about Republican versus Democrat. This is not about taxes, gas prices, or whatever nonsense outrage is dominating the news today. Eggs. This is about whether the United States remains a sovereign nation, or if we spend the rest of the century as a Russian client state with a golf course.
The sheer volume of Trump's corruption, the blatant nature of his crimes, the mountain of evidence that should have ended his political career 100 times over, none of it mattered. He survived it all. He bragged about it the other day. Not because he was innocent, but because he drowned the country in so much scandal that nothing stuck.
But this time it is different. If Musayev and Shvets are right, this isn't just another chapter in the endless Trump circus. This is the culmination of a decades-long Russian intelligence operation to install an asset in the White House. There's no coming back from this. If America lets Trump serve out this term without removing him, then the United States, as a democratic republic, is finished. The country won't collapse overnight.
There won't be tanks in the streets. Instead, the destruction of democracy will happen in slow motion. buried under lawsuits, propaganda, and corruption so blatant that people stop caring. If America lets this happen, if Trump is allowed to complete his mission, then Putin wins. The West crumbles, and the people who could have stopped it will look back years from now and wonder how they let it happen.
Good night and good luck, because if people don't wake up, America is going to sleepwalk straight into its own funeral.
And that's no joke. That's no joke at all. I mean, it's written all over the wall.
I didn't, realize that Nikita Khrushchev was the Soviet dictator back in the 60s when the JFK assassination happened, and prior to that, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He literally said that the United States will not be conquered by armies, will not be taken over by an invading force. They will allow the United States to crumble like a ripe piece of fruit from within. Like it just goes.
Yeah.
It just splays open.
This has been worked on for a long time, and like I said, it's not even three-dimensional. This is deeper. We know that Russia is involved with certain occultish type of systems and beliefs that I couldn't even find the words to explain to you how occultish and how deep it goes.
Yeah, I mean, Russia is associated with the legendary empire of Tartaria, which literally had superstructures of mass quality all around the world. Like we're not just talking, like you go to Argentina, you've got the same Romanesque buildings as you do in the Vatican.
Yeah.
You've got the same buildings in New York City that you have in London. This was a massive empire that has been lost to history, but lost for a reason. Because they don't want you to know.
No.
That at one point, the world was dominated by one governmental group. And that's what they're trying to do now. I mean, Trump is saying, make America great again, but that just means a new golden age of the age of Tartaria is coming back. He wants to take over another country and call it the 51st state. Such disrespect. But it's a way of unifying the rest of North America together as one giant empire.
And he's talking about having this event like they used to in the old days, kind of Roman type events. He spoke about it right when
last year or a couple of years ago.
Yeah. We found out about it, that we read, and he's talking about bringing in all these teams, almost like the Hunger Games.
250 years of its inception, and literally he wants to hold like these competitions with young people. Of course, make sure trans people aren't there.
Yeah.
But statues and big massive structures that they're going to spend money on when they're wanting to save money, but they want to make a whole like park of statues. Of course, this statue is going to be there. Of course, he's by the end of his term, he's going to be on Rushmore. His face is going to be there. Because he thinks he's as good as president as
better than Washington. He thinks he's first and George Washington's second. The thing is, I don't believe that he's gonna be around. I think that they've just used him as a pawn, as a puppet, to bring in what they want. That's.
But you gotta admit, he's a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
He's always been like an attention magnet.
Yeah.
People have always like he's got like this thing.
Well, because he's part of the bloodline. See, these are
his Anunnaki son.
Yeah, and he's got it in his blood, and they've been placed. This is no coincidence. Everything that's happening on this stage is no coincidence.
No.
This is all very well planned and executed. It's just, it blows my mind. You know, I feel like sometimes I'm watching an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Trump fatigue is real. It's a real thing. And the people, as you could see during the president's State of the Union address, the Democrats were so disconnected, like from all they could do was like
Put
little signs up and have one guy up there with a rod, his cane, saying, "We need to save Medicaid. You're not doing enough." You know, and it's like, instead of understanding that as a democratic republic, we are at a constitutional crisis where the leader of the free world is telling you that he's got dictatorial powers, and all you're doing is this.
Could it be that they are part of the production? See, I've always said both wings belong to the same bird.
Well, I mean, like I said last week, I said Biden could have done more to protect people like us.
Just,
you know,
another
but
pawn.
he didn't.
They're all pawns, all pawns. This whole thing of this new world order has been in the works, in the makings for eons. This is like, it's more than political. It's deeper than financial. This is good against evil. And what you think is good is actually evil. And what you think it's evil is actually good. And it's all going to play out on the stage called life. And we are living in very exciting times because we are going to see things that will blow our minds, things that you never possibly thought could be seen in a lifetime. But this is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
This is
what we got.
This is what we got.
We signed up for this really exciting culmination to the 7th version of humanity.
Yep.
See how it would end, what was going to happen, you know.
Yep.
We signed up for it.
And again, a very quiet chat, as usual. The same four that watch and never say anything.
All of our AI bots.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But anyway, you know, we put this stuff out there for whoever wants to listen. We hope we are planting some sort of seeds. You know, we won't be doing the show for very much longer because we have other plans that we're about to embark on. So, you know, hopefully what we've been putting out, it's for the past, gosh, we've been back on doing the show now for over 6 months now.
Yeah.
It's been, you know, we've put some really good information out there, and hopefully, you know, you guys got something out of it. Tonight might be the last one for a little while till we embark on our project, and then you'll be seeing our faces in a different light, in a different atmosphere. But yeah, we thank those of you that have taken the time to watch, and hopefully we got something out of it.
Yeah, and we hope that in our future videos that we do and share with you, that you will come along on this journey that we have always been on. We've been on a journey of self-discovery, of understanding the world around us, the situation with, you know, how it is that we exist here and why. I mean, we're going to ask questions, we're going to see things, we're going to be in places that are going to allow us to open Pandora's box even further, you know, to understand that this world that we're in is a prison planet.
Totally.
And we've been played for a very, very long time. And those of you watching, you probably understand what I'm talking about. But those of you that don't, stick around.
Yeah.
Grab some popcorn.
Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of our journey, because we're gonna do some really fun things, really exciting things. things that aren't going to involve us being indoors.
Yep.
Things that are going to stretch us, and we're looking forward to the change. We're putting the final touches on it, and gathering all the things, becoming more minimal, and it's going to be a wild ride for sure.
But a very spiritually nutritional, because it's going to feed the spirit. Very, very important part of human life, not just us. I think humanity is going to go through a lot in and of itself, and you just got to surrender to it and embrace it and grow from it, basically. So on that note, that's all we got for tonight.
That's it.
And like I said, tonight might be it. Maybe we'll do a couple more. It all depends. I said, it takes time to find articles and things, and sometimes it's just a bit too negative. And although I'm not one to ever run away from negativity, because I think it's important to really feel it, own it, and then you can let it go. But hiding your head in the ground like an ostrich doesn't solve anything. We've got to feel, and through feeling, that's why we're here on this planet. That's why we've been given these bodies. We've got to navigate, negotiate the environment, feel it, interact, engage, and grow. All right, guys, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night and be well.